If you're a fan of the Clone Wars, rejoice. Jedi Survivor's enemies look like an improvement in every way over the original. A cavalcade of familiar faces litters the screen, just waiting to be hacked and slashed by a weapon from a more civilized time. While a good game in its own right, Fallen Order did feel a bit generic with its enemy types. You had stormtroopers who were really fun to fight against, if not a little repetitive, wildlife that never got more complicated than dodge and hit, and the Night Sisters, who were the best enemies in the game from a combat perspective. Now, I firmly believe that Star Wars needs to get away from familiar faces and explore the whole wide galaxy. However, the last single-player Star Wars game before Fallen Order was The Force Unleashed 2, and the last good one was Knights of the Old Republic 2, which was a highly original installment to the franchise. So I think single-player Star Wars games deserve their time to wallow in the swamp of nostalgia as the movies and TV shows have. So let's take a look at my favourite enemy types revealed for Jedi Survivor, and preemptively review each one based on concept, starting with the return of battle droids. I think mechanically they will be similar to stormtroopers from the original game, but I'm far more excited by the artistic aspect of them. In the prequels and Clone Wars, these were not intimidating antagonists. They were played as a comic relief cannon fodder, not the leading battalion of an army bent on galactic domination. This makes them a much better fit in the video game medium, as more brutal decapitations will be allowed. Also, having enemies as comic relief in games has always made them more endearing. Look no further than the Halo grunts and the orcs from Mordor. But the key thing about those enemies is that they were a contrast to a far more terrifying threat. Enter the BX and Magna droids. On top of having the absolute sickest designs in Star Wars, these enemies will be much more intense to fight. BX droids look to be fast enemies that hit quickly and dart away. It seems like parrying them will be far more rewarding than trying to dodge them, while Magna droids will be about engaging them in duels rather than whacking away at them, an enemy type with which Fallen Order was sorely lacking. While I am through the roof excited for the return of the droids I used to call the roly-polies, I fear that the nostalgia overload of me being a Clone Wars kid is already at breaking point. While the Return of Droids may hint at a smuggling ring or private army, I feel as though thematically they'll be leftovers from the Clone Wars trying to get by, rather than having some ambitious goal. They'll simply be trying to survive, and the nature of war means we'll have to take them out. That or Grievous is somehow alive, and that would annoy me to no end, and no, I don't care that it would fit with the theme of survival. Let's move on to the new boss and mini-boss fights revealed in the trailers so far. Firstly is the only enemy in the game I have entirely negative feelings about, the Wampa. You know how at the start of this essay I said that single-player Star Wars games had earned the right to wallow in nostalgia for a little bit? That doesn't mean you bend over backwards to make it happen. Wampas have not only never been shown to live anywhere other than Hoth, because it's statistically impossible for the same creature to develop on two vastly different planets, but they've never been shown in the jungle. I'm annoyed that they bent over backwards to find some way to get a Wampa in the game when there's absolutely no narrative justification for it to be here, other than to make Star Wars fans oogle at a familiar Star Wars alien. There's nostalgia, and then there's pandering, and this is definitely in the latter. However, my feelings are totally the opposite on the introduction of the Rancor. This is the quintessential Star Wars boss monster. I mean, just look at that thing and tell me it doesn't scream boss fight. Unlike the Wampa, it doesn't go against any explicit law for it to be somewhere else in the galaxy. It also represents the apex predator of Star Wars monsters introduced in the original trilogy. Also included are these bounty hunters who seem to be recurring antagonists throughout the story, in the way the second sister was in the original. It remains to be seen if we'll fight them each multiple times, but the fact that there are two of them seems to imply that they'll be the tutorial boss and have a real fight later on. The key here will be making these bounty hunters have some kind of personal investment in either killing us or stopping our goal, otherwise it's a lame motivation to be constantly getting in our way. Finally, we have the High Republic figure. While I can't speculate on his involvement in the plot due to the limited information available on him, I can pray, or at least hope, that the High Republic figure is the final boss. It would be orgasmic to fight a Jedi from thousands of years ago. In fact, I'm pretty sure that this figure is the namesake of the game. He is the Jedi survivor, not Cal, and it will be up to us to extinguish the final flames of the High Republic for whatever reasons our morals don't align. I just hope that Vader isn't the final boss. It was cool once, but doing it again would be cringe-inducing. Star Wars Jedi Survivor will undoubtedly be a massive improvement from Fallen Order, with much deeper and more expansive combat. While some enemies reek of pandering, I'm happy that the wave of single-player Star Wars games is just over the horizon.